Hello, in this video we're going to be painting Daisies Galore. Here is my finished one, so you can, this is the goal. So just make sure you have out your brushes. I have 3 sizes. You need a little jar of water to keep them in and clean them out with, and a paper towel. I haven't pulled one yet, but you're going to want this to dry off your brushes. I'm going to get started. I'm going to paint the centers of the daisies. So I'm going to make a dark brown, and to do that I'm going to mix the black and the orange together. So I'm just going to stir, and you need quite a bit. The wood really soaks it up because it's old and dry. So something about like that. You don't need to use all your black or all your orange. In fact, don't, because you need those colors for some other steps. So something about like that, just so that it's a nice kind of dark brown. And with this color, you're just going to paint in all the centers of your flowers. I'm using this kind of medium-sized brush, only because it's easier to kind of get down in those grooves of the wood. I'm just filling in, trying to get good coverage down in all those little divots and things. Barn boards are rough cut. So there's one. Go up here and do this guy. And my sketch is probably slightly different than yours. I didn't take the time to do a stencil. I just freehanded sketched it on. Yours will be drawn on exactly like what was pictured when you signed up and bought your tickets or whatever, bought your kits. So mine will be slightly different, but you get the idea. It's not going to change how to paint it at all. And down here. If you're going to keep this outside, you're definitely going to want to polyurethane it just to protect it from weather. You can use the spray kind or, you know, the brush on kind. My first one, this one that I painted, this one has been polyurethane. So you'll see how the wood here is kind of more rich looking. It's just because it's got polyurethane on it. Everyone's board, the color is slightly different, so it may not have the exact same colors. But I really do like the way this wood looks when it's got that coat on it. It's pretty. Brings out the grains. I think mine is satin finish. I think that's what that one is. It's actually my dad's. I borrowed it and didn't take it back yet. I used the brush on kind. The spray kind is a lot easier though, and now that the temperatures are more reasonable, you can get out and do that. And you can't spray paint if it's too cold or too humid, or, you know, everything gets all gooey and doesn't dry right. And I don't recommend doing it indoors. The fumes are nasty. Definitely want a well-ventilated area. Okay, so I've got my centers all filled in. Now I'm gonna go in and work on my daisies. So I'm gonna clean up my brush, and just using white paint, I can start in on the petals. Cleaning out my brush. And I'm gonna start with the flowers that are like behind the main big flower. So these corner flowers are behind the front one. Well, this big one. So I'm gonna work on these petals first. It's just white paint. Try to get in all my little cracks. And I paint each petal on its own. It is helpful if you kind of go with the grain. Don't worry if you get a little sloppy against your center. We'll be touching things up like that later. So this petal sits behind this big petal, so I'm only painting this part for now. So I've got this upper one done. And before I move on to this one, I'm going to do this lower one. So I'll just start here. I'm making sure I get all my sketchy lines covered. I don't want those showing at the end. You see up here kind of like the dirt and grime that's kind of soaked into the wood is kind of getting absorbed by the paint. I don't mind that at all. So I'm not worried about that. If you don't like that, just put another coat on. I think it adds character. Barn boards are cool like that. Let's see, this one's here. gonna lift this up so I can get that little bottom guy there. Okay, so I'm not gonna do that center flower just yet. I'm gonna put some shadows in on these just to help us, once that's painted, not become just this big white blob. So I am going to mix up a little bit of like this slatey blue color. To do that, I'm gonna just take some white to the side. Add a little bit of blue, not much, probably not even that much. It's better to just start with a little and work from there. You can always add more. See how a tiny bit of blue turned that blue? I think I can go a little bit darker. I like to be on the safe side. I'm using my medium-sized brush to kind of stir it all together. And I'm going to add black into it to give it that slatey color. Once I add black, I'm probably going to need to add a little bit more blue, but this kind of gives us an idea of where we're at. And I'm just starting with a little bit. Yeah, so now it's kind of more gray. I want the blue to come through a little bit better than that. Some more blue. And then I can add just a smidge more black in. Trying to get it all in one little pile. Black. Nope, I grabbed more blue. That's all right. We'll just stir it in. So something about like that, just so that it's not this bright blue. You want to tone it down a little bit, give it kind of a more, or I don't know what the word, like natural, like color, like flowers, especially daisies. This is just a shadow. You're not really going to see bright blue on a daisy. So I'm just scraping the excess off. And on these petals that are falling behind, because these are on top, we haven't painted yet, I'm going to kind of just brush in a little bit. It's very lightly, very little bit on my brush. So this is a petal here. And where it falls behind, I'm just putting in a little bit more of a shadow. So in here. And don't worry, I know this is getting very blue. We can layer back on top with some white to tone it down. My blue is a little too blue also. So my next layer is gonna fix it. Just maybe a little around my edge. I have like no paint on my brush, and that's the idea. You just want to lightly brush it in. Then when we do these petals, you're easily going to be able to see where this flower starts and that one starts. So a little bit more of my blue. I'm going to come down. I got way too much on my brush. Just very lightly, kind of on this petal, down in this little crack where it overlaps there also. I want that shadowed. Say this is a petal here, brush a little on. This is a big petal. I'm gonna get in this crack where it overlaps. Brush a little in here. There it that. Oop, see, I missed a little there. That's okay. We can go over it later. This little spot gets overlapped onto. So you see how I'm putting a little bit more blue in the areas where the flowers overlap? That's just going to create a bit of a shadow. And here, create this petal, very little on my edge. And then down here. Now I'm going to go in and paint those petals just plain white. The flower we haven't painted yet. Cleaning out my brush. And just white paint, I'm gonna go and paint in all these petals. Okay, so I've got my third, excuse me, daisy painted in. I'm gonna add a little bit of blue to this one as well. I don't really need to worry about cleaning out my brush. Just gonna take a little bit of that blue paint on my brush and start. So I've got this petal here, brush a little less than that, up here where it's coming out of the flower, and just kind of along the edge. Same with this one, find my edge, a little in the center, maybe up here. And it's very, very little paint on your brush. This one, I'll put this one here, then I can put this one here. Okay, so you can pretty much see where every flower starts and begins in in relationship to the other ones. I'm gonna go in with a little bit more white on some of that blue just to kind of tone it down a little bit. Like some areas that may have too much, just take your white. So maybe like here, I don't like all that so much. Just go right over it a little. It's still gonna show through some, but this will help like just kind of tone it down so it's not quite so in your face. Here, I got a little much. Okay, so I'm gonna make that a little bit more gray, my blue areas. I'm just gonna take a scoop of black, stir it over here, and my blue. I got this nice kind of dark grayish color. Add a little bit more blue. And I'm gonna lighten that up a smidge. I don't need a lot of it, so you can just lighten up part of it. So this has a more grayishness to it. And with very little bit on my brush, see, I just kind of scrape it off on the side. I'm just gonna come in and just kind of define a little bit of where I've already put the blue. Just right on top. If you want to use a smaller brush for this, feel free. Especially get in your little overlap shadow spots. I'm just stepping back to look at it. When I'm right beside it, it's hard to really see what's going on. Okay, that looks good. Next, we're gonna add like a very, very, very pale yellow. So I'm gonna clean out my brush. And with quite a bit of white, you're gonna mix a little bit of yellow. So let me just take a scoop over here. And I'm just gonna take a little bit of my yellow and stir it in. And just a smidge more. It should be very pale, kind of like a stick of butter. And very little on my brush. I'm just gonna, on each petal, just brush a little bit. Okay, so I could go a little bit more yellow. It's hard to tell until it's actually on there. Let's try that. Let's see what that does. Let me scrape the excess off. And just a little on my edge. Yeah. That's better. I can actually see that it's yellow. So it's very little on your brush. You're just brushing a little bit on, kind of brightening up your petals. It's very, very pale, but not so pale that it still looks white. All right, so I've got all my petals done. I'm gonna go back into my centers and we're gonna jazz those up a little bit. I'm just cleaning out my brush. I've got my dark brown color here. It's kind of been oozed from me holding my plate up. So I'll just kind of stir a little bit more of that so I have some. And I'm just gonna do a quick coat. I can kind of smooth out any weird edges I got. And then just brush all over. I'll do one center at a time because I want that paint somewhat wet so it's blendable. Get out of the way here. And then I'm just gonna take this orange color and I'm just gonna blend right on top. And I'm kind of going in this curved shape here. It's hard with that easel in my way. I've got it like that. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of white and yellow. A bit of white and yellow. It's much brighter than last time. And I didn't even clean out my brush, that's fine. And I'm just gonna kind of swoop that in and blend it in as well. And I'm leaving the edge a little dark and I can still see some of the dark color behind. That's perfect, that's what we want. So I'm gonna go back up and do that one. I'm not gonna worry about cleaning my brush. Just take my dark brown color. I can clean up any of my weird edges if I've got some little slops from when I did my petals. And then get just a quick coat of the brown paint on there so it's wet. I take just a straight orange color. I'm just gonna swoop it in. And then this yellowy white color right on top. If you go too many times back and forth, you lose the streaks. So you want to kind of do it just quick and loose. And then up here, same. This is my brown. It's got the other colors in it, but that's okay. Because I didn't bother to clean my brush. I'm going to be swooping all those colors in on top, so it's all good. So I got nice wet dark brown paint, straight orange, swooping that in. And then I'm gonna take my yellow and white. I'm gonna make a little bit more. I ran out. And it's a little bit brighter yellow. And some white paint. And I'm just gonna blend that in loosely so I can still see my swoops. And good. This one here this middle one needs a little bit more obvious swoopage there. I just over blended it is all. Now our final step is just to go in with dark brown, and we're going to kind of outline some things to define our petals and add like kind of swoop swirls inside of our centers. Let's see, what kind of brush do I want? I'm going to use a long skinny brush like this, and it's going to be the dark brown. I should mix with a bigger brush. So I need to just make a little pile of my dark brown, blacken the dark orange color, and I want this to flow really well. So I'm going to thin it just a smidge, and to do that, I'm just going to dip my brush in water and then stir the water into my paint. And it's just going to thin it a little bit. I don't want it so thin that it drips. I just want the flow to be a little better. Okay, so using my long skinny brush, I'm just going to load it up. And I'll start with these petals, and I'm just quickly... It's easier if I'm got it in front of me laying down like on the tabletop, but I'll make do with this angle. I'm just quick, loose outlining. This is that dark brown. A little bit more water. It's starting to get thick again on me. And let me try to get this guy here. Perfect. I'm going to do inside of these a little. And I'll just kind of spiral. Can't really even see it on those. I'm going to darken this just a smidge by adding a little bit more black into my color, just so I can see my little spirals. If your color is lighter, you don't really need to worry about darkening this. And then I'm just kind of swooping in the start color. And now we're done. Oh, maybe a little on this outside edge. I got a little messy there, so I'll just kind of clean up my edge. Maybe on this edge too. There. Now I'm done. So if you want to sign your work, go ahead. You can also just do it on the back. I tend to sign down in here. I've got this weird thing where I don't sign the wood ones. I can't explain it. I just don't. Date, initial, whatever, floats your boat. You'll have holes in yours up at the top. Mine has holes, but they're just pre-existing holes from being attached to a barn. You'll get a piece of twine. I always feed through the back because I like the knot in front, but do it however you like. Because you'll have this little piece of twine. And if you see on this one, I've just fed it through the back and then knotted it in the front. And then any extra dangles, because you can adjust how long you want it. If you've got a piece hanging off, obviously just cut that down. And there you have it, all done. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please take photos and post to my Facebook page, Willy-Nilly. There is a post pinned right at the top so you can find it easily, where you can just upload and share. I love seeing them. While you're there, check out everybody else's work. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.